If you want to be able to solo literally everything in the game while having unlimited supers, abilities, and probably some of the most fun you can even have on Hunter, this is definitely the build you want to use. In my opinion, I genuinely believe this is the best Hunter build in the game now, and while yes, this build is going to take strides of what a lot of Hunters have already been using, it will take advantage of some brand new buffs that we received with that too. Notably, that is going to be the 3x super energy Roman super buff that we did receive. Pairing that with the correct class item and everything else of this build, you are able to spam supers literally all the time. If you haven't been one to go out and get an exotic class item yet, I really hope this video can convince you, because everything that is involved with it is just so strong. But I don't want to hold you guys for too long, so let's go on and jump right into it. All right, first things first, we need to take a look at the class item, because this plays such a crucial part to the build. We are going to be taking Spirit of Galanor, so hits and final blows with your super will return super energy after it ends, and then also Spirit of the Liar, so dealing damage with a powered melee or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful arc melee counterpunch. So if you're already aware of the Liar Hunter build, we are essentially going to be taking advantage of that, but pair that with some armor mods and also with Spirit of Galanor. As you can see from these clips, you get your super extremely quick. With Galanor, if you get enough kills with your super, you will actually refund 50% of your super energy back, which is just nuts. And then you can take advantage of everything else in the build to easily top off the other 50%, and you can spam these supers over and over again. When I say you can get 10 plus supers in a single strike, I am not joking. It is that ridiculous, and you can even do these things in something like a GM. Now for the other part with Liar, this is going to be a very melee heavy focused build. If you don't want to play the classic dodge melee, you could swap this out for something else, even maybe taking something like Star Eaters to make your Silk Strike do a lot more damage. However, if you just want to arguably the best neutral game in all of Destiny alongside having infinite supers, this is definitely the class item you're going to want to use. I know a lot of people like to take Liar Caliban, and while that is good, I don't particularly think you need it, and I think getting the 50% super energy buff is a lot better in my opinion. And with the roaming super buffs, it is for sure something you want to try. But now let's jump into the subclass and talk about how all this works. Now again, if you already are aware of the classic Hunter melee spam build, you could definitely skip ahead a little bit, but I'm going to go over it for everyone that doesn't know, since this is going to be just a full build guide in general. So first off, we're going to be taking combination blows. So every time we get a melee kill with this ability, we will get health, and it will also refill our class ability. We can then take Gambler's Dodge, so when we use our dodge, we will get our melee ability. So the synergy here is you can melee dodge, melee dodge, melee dodge. You're constantly stacking melee damage, and you're constantly getting health. Now to further play into this, we're also going to be taking Winter Shroud. So whenever we dodge, we will slow nearby enemies. This will proc every single time we're doing our combination of melee slow. And then also with Stylus Executioner, whenever we defeat an elemental debuff target, we will also be able to go invisible. And when we are invisible with Stylus Executioner, our next melee will weaken targets, which is nice, but the main benefit is that we will basically just permanently be invisible. So this does synergize together very well. Your slow will apply an elemental debuff, you'll kill that target with the melee, you'll go invisible with Stylus Executioner, you could dodge, then get your melee back, and you can see how this chain will just keep on going. A nice little benefit to throw in is something like grapple, because this will actually apply unravel. You can grapple in, kill an enemy, the unravel will proc, you'll also go invisible with Stylus Executioner, and grapple is just so much fun. If you want to take any other grenade, you totally can, but since this is such a melee focused build, I would definitely recommend taking grapple, and also you're going to be able to spam this as well with the amount of cooldown we'll have for it. And for the super, as you've seen, we're going to be running Silk Strike. I do want to point out, you can run Shadow Shot or Deadfall if you would like to. Even something like Silent Squall will work well, but the reason you want to run just these three in particular is because of our fragments. Now if you want to get the most super energy possible, you are going to want to run Silk Strike, because again, this did receive the 3x super energy buff. It recharges so quick, and I would argue Silk Strike is better in most situations other than maybe something like a boss, because obviously you can debuff or also throw Silent Squall just to do some damage over time. But in like a GM scenario or just any ad clear scenario, Silk Strike is just 100% the best super to take. It is that good with the amount of super energy you get back, and it also even provides you a great benefit with your fragments. Now, speaking of the fragments, we do have faster protections. When we're surrounded, we will get some damage resistance. Since you're always going to be surrounded, since you're constantly meleeing over and over again, you're just going to be a lot more tankier. Next up is going to be faster to purpose. So if we pick an overpower, we will get a buff based on our super. This is what I was talking about. So with Silk Strike, we're going to be getting Woven Mel. If you do take Shadow Shot, if you do take Silent Squall, you will get Frost Armor and Void Overshields, which are great, and you really can't go wrong with any 3 of those. Literally all of them are just going to give you damage reduction, which is obviously very, very strong. Now next up is going to be Facet of Courage. So our Arc Soul and Void abilities deal more damage to enemies affected with a Darkness debuff. This does also synergize with this because you're applying a Darkness debuff with Winter Shroud. That means your light melee ability will be doing more damage to those Darkness debuff targets. Next up is just going to be Facet of Ruin, so we can increase the size and damage whenever we shatter a target. With Winter Shroud, you can freeze enemies really easily. Simply doing 2 dodges will actually freeze a target. So that means now when you punch them, they will shatter, and that shatter will just do more damage, which is great for ad clear. It kind of helps out with the fact that we're not running Calibans for the ad clear. And again, it is way more than enough. You can absolutely shroud with this. Now finally is Facet of Blessing. This is an interesting one. So this basically makes it so melee final blows start health generation. I know combination blow gives you health back when you get melee kills, which is great. It is very, very strong. But being that we are using the class item version of Liar, we don't get the full health back. So this is nice. It does come into play sometimes. You can get a melee kill, you'll be invisible, you can start your health generation, heal to full. But the main benefit is that it works with Silk Strike. So if you get a melee kill with Silk Strike, it will actually start your health generation. Normally you would just get a melee kill and you just wouldn't heal. Yes, you don't particularly need the healing in Silk Strike, I would say, because you're already going to be super tanky, but it is great if you are doing a GM, say something like a solo GM, you can actually heal off this fragment. But I do want to say, if you want to take literally anything else here that's to your liking, to your playstyle, feel free to swap it out. This is just what I have found to work the best for me. Since you can spam your supers so much, you will actually be taking advantage of this fragment quite a lot with your Silk Strike. But again, if you want to take something like Dawn, if you're using your weapons a lot more often, feel free to do that. Even if you're running a strand weapon, Bravery could be very good because you'll get unraveling rounds for your strand weapons. It's totally up to you. This is kind of just a playstyle dependent thing, but again, I wanted to make the build synergize as much as possible, and being the fact that this works with Silk Strike, that is the reason I opted in to take it. And it also kind of comes to play a little bit, not too much, but with combination blow it can work. And also to mention, yes, you do have Transcendent with this build. You will have this up extremely quick because of the light damage you're doing, the darkness damage you're doing with your grapple, your Winter Shroud, everything of that sort. The grenade for Hunter, honestly, it's not the greatest, but you do get that increased damage reduction when you pop Transcendence to increase damage, which is very nice. So if you're ever in a sticky situation and you lose an ability, you lose the gameplay flow of, you know, your dodge melee, you pop Transcendence, you get it back, and also you'll get the benefits again of everything else we just went over. Now for weapons with this build, it's totally up to you. Just make sure you have one thing, and that is going to be a 1-2 punch shotgun. So this makes it so when you hit a target with every pellet, it will actually increase your melee damage. So if you ever come across a tankier target, you can shoot them with the shotgun, melee them, and you will just do an absurd amount of damage. The fun gameplay loop here is that you can actually prime your Liar. So you can just do a normal melee punch. That means your Liar punch will be primed. You can then shoot the shotgun to proc 1-2 punch. Your Liar punch is also procced. And so now you're just going to have a nuke melee come out. And then even if you pair that with things like Grave Robber, you can actually reload the shotgun when you get a melee kill, which is nice. Synergizes extremely well. This is pretty much always my go-to 1-2 punch shotgun, but there are so many in the game. So just be sure to find one that you enjoy, find one that you prefer, or something to match a Surge, and you'll be good to go. 1-2 punch is just very good with this. And jumping into the artifact, there really isn't a lot here that is super necessary. There's some things I want to point out. Things like anti-barrier shotguns are actually great since you're always going to be running a 1-2 punch shotgun. This is just nice so you can stun barrier champions. On top of that, this will also give you the ability to shoot through those pesky shielded enemies that you could just never seem to melee. Next up is things like the thick of it, so rapid final blows while you're surrounded can create armor charge. You don't really need this because you're going to get armor charge extremely easy anyway, but I guess this is just a nice little thing to have to just play it super safe. And then the other main one is probably just conductive cosmic crystal, so your arc and void abilities will do more damage to enemies affected by a stasis debuff. Again, playing off the fact that it is just like courage right here. Your arc melee is just going to do a little bit more damage. Now it's not a lot, but it is a nice little benefit because it's just more damage. For everything else, I mean, this is literally just like normal playstyle things. Like obviously if you're running grenade launchers, take grenade launcher based things. Since nothing else stasis void or arc wise really matters too much, taking debilitating wave of total carnage is great just to have a finisher setup if you ever need to. The only stasis mod that really works with this is something like brain freeze. So if you want to swap out kinetic impacts and maybe take brain freeze, so when you freeze enemies you slow them, but you're already slowing them anyway because you're literally in close range dodging all the time. So overall, just taking kind of the neutral game artifact perks is the way to go, and with the main ones just being conductive cosmic crystal anti-barrier shotgun, and I guess you could throw in thick of it, but again, you don't particularly even need this one. But that's a good thing, because that means you can pretty much just use this build whenever you like to, and it's not really tied down to a specific season. Now for stat distribution, go with 100 resilience to get your 30% damage reduction. I would then go into 100 discipline so you can get a 41-second grapple grenade cooldown, which will be increased even more once we get into our armor mods. And then for the other stats, it's honestly up to you. I prefer taking a lot of mobility on Hunter for the simple fact that if we do mess our combination up, we can just get our dodge back extremely quick so we can get the ball rolling again. If you don't want to do that and you're just a god and never mess up your flow, you never mess up your synergy at all here, you can opt in to take more recovery or take more intellect, whatever you would like to do. But just know your melee and mobility really don't matter with this build at all in the grand scheme of things. You're really just kind of taking mobility just to have, you know, the dodge come back super quick to have in your back pocket if you do mess something up. The main stats are for sure just resilience and discipline. That's literally the only two you need. But jumping into armor mods, this is what I'm running if you like to copy it down. But if you want a more in-depth detail, let's take a look at our helmet. First off, we're going to be running power preservation. So your super final blows create extra orbs of power for your allies. Since you can spam your super all the time, you're going to make even more orbs for your team now. And if they also are running Roman supers, and if they're running this mod, you can chain supers so easy. It is just ridiculous the amount of orbs you can create. But if you don't really want to play into this, you can opt to take something else here, but in reality you're not really taking siphons because you're not shooting your gun too much. And while you could always double dip into our other armor mods, it's never really that necessary because the benefits you should get are so extremely low. That's why I opt in just take power preservation. But for our other two armor mods, we are going to be running hands-on, so we get bonus super energy on melee kills, and dynamo, so we get bonus super energy when we dodge your targets. Obviously this is going to synergize extremely well with this build because we're always dodging your targets and we're always melee target. So now we get even more super. The super's going to make more orbs. With Galanor, we're getting that 50% super back. We can spam these literally all the time, and it gives us such good benefits, not only for you but your team as well. Now for our arms, we're going to be running triple heavy-handed, so now every single time we get a melee kill, we will make an orb of power. This is why you don't really need to think of it, because you're going to pick the orbs up all the time anyway. You're constantly getting armor charge, but the main benefit of this is the fact that we are going to be constantly picking up facet of purpose. So we're gonna literally permanently have woven mail all the time, just have that permanent damage reduction 24/7. We're gonna always be surrounded by enemies to have that permanent damage reduction, and we're always healing. So you are quite literally unkillable, and if that wasn't enough, you also will be invisible, so enemies won't even shoot you in the first place. So you are just extremely tanky. And not to mention, also picking these orbs up will also grant you extra super energy, which is great because you want to spam supers a lot with the build. Now for the chest piece, always go with resistant mods. Just be sure to swap itself for content you're going into. And then for boots, I like to take a recuperation, an innervation, and absolution. So the reason for these, recuperation will heal you when you pick an orb up. This is great. Pairing them with combination blow, you heal in a lot. Blessing, again, you're literally never going to die. Now innervation, so we'll get grenade energy when you pick an orb up. And then also absolution, so we get energy for everything. Again, you don't really need the melee or class ability, but the main thing is we get extra grenade energy. Again, continue with the trend from our helmet. You could take double innervation here, but in reality you are going to be getting more grenade energy back if you take innervation and absolution, because absolution will just provide more on its base form than just double innervation would. So definitely be sure to take these two. And even if you want to take something like better already, swap out facet of blessing, you could do so, but again, facet of blessing will work with your super, so I do just want to remind you of that. And then also take an absolution, innervation, you get even more grenade energy for grapple, and grapple is just too fun to not take advantage of. And again, recuperation for the health is just so good. Now for the class item, we are going to be running powerful attraction. This is the main one you really need to be aware of. So every time we dodge, we're going to pick orbs up. We're constantly getting melee kills, making orbs. Now we're constantly dodging, picking all the orbs up. The synergy is just absolutely ridiculous. And then also bomber, so whenever we dodge, we get grenade cooldown back. Again, we're immediately going to get our melee back every time we dodge. Now we just can just further get some grenade energy back. Pairing that with innervation, absolution, you can spam your grapple all the time. And then finally, to take advantage of all this armor charge we're getting, we're just going to be taking special ammo finisher. You don't really need anything else here, and honestly, if you prefer something else, you can take it. But special ammo finisher is just so nice because you're always going to have 3 stacks with everything going on. You're going to guarantee special ammo for your 1-2 punch shotgun, and you're also taking advantage of finisher artifact perks anyway, so it just makes it a lot easier to get into the flow state of that. Again, admittedly, if you want to take something else here, you could, and if you don't even want to play into armor charge, you totally don't have to. But there isn't too much here that I would recommend. Maybe taking something like proximity war could be great. Swap that out for bomber, but bomber is so good because you get your grapple back. So I think special finisher is for sure just the way to go here. But again, if you want to swap something out, you could totally do so. But now for the Tramsmog, this is what I'm running. Obviously, since we're playing heavily into Silk Strike, I went for a very Strand themed look. I took advantage of the Crota pants alongside the Root of Nightmares chest piece, some of the old Splicer armor. I love these Hunter gauntlets. I think they look so good. And I low-key don't even remember where this helmet's from, but I love the little light that it provides, all the little like green, you know, neon lightings that's on the armor alongside the Strand things. It looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, this class item is kind of hard to decorate. I tried to take advantage of the ornament, but like, yeah, let's be honest, the normal one kind of looks a lot better with this specific setup. But if you want to make your hunter look like this or give me any fashion advice, definitely be sure to drop a comment down below or copy this down. But that is pretty much all for this build. Again, this is the classic Liar's Handshake build for Hunter. It is still one of the best builds in the entire game, but now we can swap some things out, put Galanor on our class item, and we can literally spam infinite supers. It gets to a point where you don't even really have to use your Liars that much because you just have your super all the time. But again, as mentioned, if you don't want to take Silk Strike, take it Silent Skull. Tether is also very good with this, but I would definitely recommend giving Silk Strike a shot. It is very strong. It is super fun to spam them all the time, and it makes your constant melee only build even more fun. This is for sure going to be my go-to hunter build from here on out in most content in the game. Obviously, if I'm in some sort of DPS situation, I'll swap over to Nighthawk or something of the sort, but for 90% of the game, this is going to have you covered, and it is just so good. Anyway though, that's going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.